Salve cantanti, and welcome back to this new video of the Repertoire Series. Today we're going to be looking at a wonderful trio, picking up from where we left off last time. But before we do, if you're interested in working with the score and the text itself on a very serious and deep level, consider checking out my volume that I've created for Le Nozze di Figaro. You can find it on my website. I'm going to be leaving the link down below. Now, let us get straight into it. Right into it, sorry. Now, last time we had the very silly scene where essentially Cherubino hides in the room from the Count hides in the room, and he hides from Basilio. Now, Basilio is there, and we're about to get an absolutely ridiculous scene. So, Susanna is terrified, and let's see what happens. Come? Che di con tutti? The Count burst out in anger. He could no longer handle being hidden and not responding to these awful allegations. So, Cosa sento? What am I hearing? Tosto, andate. Go, now. E scacciate il seduttor. So, send away this seductor. Who is this seductor? Cherubino. What is quite ironic, perhaps, is that essentially what the Count is complaining about is the exact same thing he does throughout the play. So, and remember, this is at the very beginning of the play, so we get a little bit of an idea of what each character is like. So, scacciate il seduttor. Basilio, in a very funny way, I think, says, In mal punto son qui giunto, perdonate, o mio signor. I've arrived here at a rather unfortunate moment. Please forgive me, my lord. But it's, In mal punto son qui giunto, perdonate, o mio signor. I think it's quite funny. So you have this. Yes. So you have in mal punto son qui giunto, and then Susanna, Cherubino, me meschina, sono oppressa dal dolor. Cherubino, oh no, she's thinking of what is about to happen. Me meschina, wretched me, sono oppressa dal dolor. I am oppressed of pain. Doesn't make much sense in English, but it means I'm overwhelmed by pain. I'm so terrified and anxious and worried right now. And then, Tosto, andate. Go immediately, says the Count to Basilio. Cherubino, va bene. Sono oppressa dal dolor. Sono oppressa dal dolor. And Susanna almost faints. Poor Susanna, quite a sad scene. Sono oppressa dal dolor, and let's see this. Quasi svenuta. Svenire means to faint in Italian. And then Basilio says, Ah, già svien la poverina, come Dio le batte il cor. And it's quite a nice little exchange between Basilio and the Conte, because they're saying the same thing, but one enters a beat early. Ah, già sviene. Oh, the poor girl has already fainted. How, oh my God, her heart beats. So she is very worried and anxious. That's why she fainted in the first place. And in some versions in some productions, I should say, rather, Basilio tries to, place his hand on Susanna's hand just to make sure she's okay or whatever, and the Count immediately does. He slaps him. Come Dio le batte il cor, come Dio le batte il cor. Now, il Conte e Basilio sostengono Susanna. The Count and Basilio are holding her, essentially, and they're taking her to approssimandosi al sedile in atto di farla sedere. They're trying to take her to the armchair so that she can sit there. So that she can sit there and, well, not fall to the ground because the poor girl's fainted. Pian pianin su questo seggio. Slowly, slowly, here on this seat. And then Susanna wakes up, essentially, in a way. She's starting to come out of her, she's no longer unconscious. Dove sono? Cosa veggio? Where am I? Poor girl's confused. Cosa veggio? What am I seeing? Che insolenza! Andate fuori, andate fuori, andate fuori. Si stacca da tutti e due. So, while Basilio and the Count were holding her up so that she doesn't fall down, they were trying to take her to close to the seat so that she can sit. Susanna, imagine this: you're a poor girl there. You've just fainted, and then you see two men holding you. It's just cosa veggio? Che insolenza! Such insolence! Andate fuori! Out! Out! It's a very powerful melodic line. So make sure you make this strong, and you're worried about you're worried about what might happen to you. And then con malignità. Well, malignance is not the exact word in English, but with cunning and perhaps malicious intent as well, in a very sly way. Basilio says, siamo qui per aiutarvi, è sicuro il vostro onor. I bet this is the Count, actually, but they're saying the same thing as earlier. Come le batte il cor? Yes, a little cannon. Well, it's not a cannon, but it's the same thing, and it enters a measure later. Same thing here. Siamo qui per aiutarvi. We're here to help you. Your honor is safe with us. If you have to say that, then there's something wrong. Non turbarti. Okay. Basilio then continues to say, è sicuro il vostro onor. Okay. But non turbarti. Don't worry, o mio tesor, says the Count. Don't you worry, my dear, my beloved. Basilio then al conte. Ah, del paggio, quel che ho detto, era solo un mio sospetto. It's the same thing we heard earlier. Mozart uses many of these little themes in an incredibly intelligent way in this trio. In mal punto son qui giunto. Same thing, transposed. Where are we? Ah, del paggio. What I said about the page, cherubino, it was just my a little suspicion. I don't really know. He's trying to essentially protect his own hide here. And then Susanna says, è un'insidia, una perfidia. Non credete all'impostore. No, it's a lie. This is so perfidia. It's a lie. It's an awful, evil deed. Do not believe this impostor. And then we have a little pause here. And then the Count, in a very decisive way, parte il damerino, poverino. So off with cherubino, away. And then both Basilio and Susanna, poverino. Now, I think that Basilio here should not say this in a way that actually sounds convincing. He doesn't really mean it, I don't think. But Susanna, poverino, po cherubino, no. Parta il damerino, poverino, Poverino. But this time it's the count. Poverino, poverino, m'ha me sorpreso ancor. But he's always, he keeps on surprising me, not in a good way. Susanna, come, che, come, che. Basilio and Susanna wonder, how? And then we have a little recitativo accompagnato, essentially. Da tua cugina l'uscio ier trovai rinchiuso. When I was at your cousin's place, chambers inside the palace, I found the entrance, well, not necessarily locked, but closed, let's say. So the door was closed. Picchio, picchiare literally means to beat, but I knocked on the door. M'apre Barbarina, paurosa fuor dell'uso. And then Barbarina opens the door for me, even more terrified than what she usually is. Okay. So why? And seeing her face and her facial expression, I was io dal muso insospettito, I had sospetti, I had suspicions. Guardo, cerco in ogni sito. I look in the I look through everything. I make sure that this doesn't make much sense yet, because ed alzando pian pianino, I'm looking for something. I was searching for something, someone, and then finally a tempo, di nuovo, again. So previously it was recitativo. Da tua cugina l'uscio ieri trovai rinchiuso, parapirapam, picchio, m'apre Barbarina, paurosa fuor dell'uso, parapirapam. Io dal muso insospettito guardo, cerco in ogni sito, and then a tempo. Ed alzando pian pianino. What is this? This is Basilio. We have Basilio's little theme, but this time it's by the count. Mozart uses these themes in such a carefully thought out way here. It's beautiful. This little trio is amazing. And it's also incredibly important from a rhetoric point of view, so we understand what's going to happen in the play. Ed alzando pian pianino il tappeto al tavolino vedo il paggio. Now this is really funny, because the count is describing, yesterday when I was at your cousin's, I could tell essentially that Cherubino was there, even though he shouldn't be, or he shouldn't have been. And so, ed alzando il tappeto al tavolino, tappeto literally is carpet, but in this case, it's not really, you don't put a carpet on your tavolino, on a little, table. Maybe a cloth, anything that might have been on the table, which was covering the paggio here, cherubino. And then I lift this veil, and behold, I find cherubino. And would you look at that? He does the exact same thing, and he finds cherubino. Scopre il paggio. Con sorpresa. Ah, cosa veggio? What am I seeing? Susanna, con timore. Scared. Ah, crude stelle. Con riso. It's not rice here, it's laughing, smiling. Ah, meglio ancora, says Basilio. And then, another theme we've already heard before. Parta il damerino. Here is honestissima signora. The count says, most honest and fair lady. Or capisco come va. I see how things are. And Susanna says, accadere non può di peggio. It can't get any worse. Giusti dei. Oh gods. Che mai sarà? And then Basilio. Così fan tutte le belle, non c'è alcuna novità. That is what all the fair ones do. No surprises here. And then we have a lot of repetition here. Così fan tutte le non caderno. Ah, and then Basilio. Basilio, look at this. Del paggio. Hold on, Basilio. Accadere un po' di peggio. Del paggio quel che ho detto. There we go, sorry. Del paggio quel che ho detto era solo un mio sospetto. We can literally see him in front of us. So this time, Basilio is saying it as I didn't quite know. So this time he's trying to protect himself in a good way, saying, oh, look what I did for you, Mr. Count. Così fan tutte le belle, onestissima signora, non c'è alcuna novità, and it's a lot of repetition here. Che mai sarà, one of the most common stock phrases in opera. Oh, what is going to happen? And then we have the recitativo. Let's go over it very, quickly. Basilio intraccia Tosto di Figaro volate. Io vo che veda, and Susanna, ed io che senta. So Basilio, the Count tells Basilio, go, fetch Figaro. Come on, I want him to see what's going on here. So, implying that, look at what Susanna is doing with Cherubino. And Susanna, being far more intelligent than the Count, says, oh yes, go, bring him. I want him to see and hear. Essentially, I will tell him what you're up to. Restate. No, sorry. Susanna says, andate. And then, restate, the conte. Che baldanza. E quale scusa se la colpa è evidente? And what excuse is there if this is obviously, we can obviously see what is going on? Ma non ha can't quite understand what this is supposed to be. But essentially, un innocente non ha bisogno di una scusa. An innocent man, boy, Cherubino, has no need for excuses. Ma costui quando venne, says the Count. But when did he come? And Susanna says, he was with me. Egli era meco quando voi giungeste e mi chiede di impegnare la padrona a intercedergli grazia. Cherubino was here asking for me to intervene and ask the Count for her pardon so that you don't send him off, which is true. Il vostro arrivo in scompiglio lo pose. He was frightened by your presence, and then he hid himself there. Ma se io stesso m'assisi quando in camera entrai, but I sat there when I came into the room. And Cherubino, timidamente, poor little Cherubino, but he has it coming for him, honestly, in a shy way. And yes, but when you were there, I hid behind the chair. And then the Count. And when I was there, well, allor piano mi volsi e qua m'ascosi. So I turned and I hid myself here. And then the Conte says, oh ciel, dunque ha sentito quello che ti dicea. So he heard what I was telling you. And Cherubino responds, feci per non sentir quanto potea. I tried my best not to hear anything. Oh, perfidia, says the Count. Oh, such treachery. Frenate, vien gente, says Basilio. Calm down, people are coming. And the Conte tells Cherubino, E voi restate qui, picciol serpente. You stay here, you little snake. So what we have then is the flower scene. One of the two. No, actually not the... Yeah, the flower scene. I have the first of the two flower scenes. And then we have a very, very famous aria, Figaro's Non più andrai. But that's for another video. This has been quite a long video. We've analyzed quite a few interesting things here. So if you want to work on the text and the opera in detail in order to sing with meaning and impeccable pronunciation, check out my website. I'll be leaving the links down below. I offer one-to-one Opera Italian lessons. We focus exactly on what you need, on the repertoire you need, on what you want to learn. If you simply want to work on your pronunciation, if you want to learn the language of Italian opera, we work on what you need. So if you're interested, again, check the links down below. And if you're interested in working specifically on Le Nozze di Figaro, check out my volume 1. I've created this wonderful volume in which I analyze essentially the text and the music, and I focus on pronunciation, meaning, the literal meaning, the idiomatic meaning, some performance considerations, how you should interpret the text and the music, and it's a really, really good way of interacting with the text and singing better. So if you're interested, check it out. That'll be all for today, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.